Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we're privileged to have with us Michael Dubrow, who is the principal of a private equity firm, Estalea, and he's also co-founder of Money Tips. Welcome to the program, Michael.
Good morning, Mike. Great to be with you.
Hey, so let's just jump right in and share with us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to one day, way back when, become an entrepreneur.
Great. Well, I'm restless by nature, Mike, and so I've been blessed with the opportunity to explore a number of fascinating industries over the last few decades. I'm kind of a fossil at the age of 62 here. And we've been in the institutional investment business, mass scale, direct-to-consumer marketing, both going back to the old bricks-and-mortar telemarketing days to the modern web era, and now to a very exciting online destination like Money Tips, where we empower consumers to take control of their own financial lives. So, I've had a background that, thank God, has been varied to keep me interested. In terms of, I think the much more interesting question than my background would be this idea you raise of what is it that leads one into being an entrepreneur. Why does one go down that path? And in my case, I think it's less about an actual starting point when I was young or an event and more about one's fundamental makeup. I think that entrepreneurs are born rather than made. Of course, you hear that said all the time, but I think I understand why that is. Because I've given some thought to it. May I expand on that a little?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Well, I would say if you put a gun to my head, that there are three key drivers in an entrepreneur's nature or makeup that almost force him or her to become one. I'd say the first is, interestingly enough, dissatisfaction. I'm a big movie buff and big fan of Stanley Kubrick, and he once said that artists and criminals have one thing in common. Neither of them see the world as it really is, and I've never forgotten that. And I think entrepreneurs are a lot like that. I think they see the world as not as it currently is, but as it might be, as it ought to be. And it's like that proverbial grain of sand in the oyster.
Yeah.
This discomfort produces something beautiful or valuable if we're moved constructively to respond to our pain. So entrepreneurs routinely turn their discomfort into something valuable. So that's first. You got to be dissatisfied with things as they are, I think, to be a born entrepreneur. Secondly, I think you need to be somewhat insecure. A guy like Steve Jobs comes to mind, very strong leader, but he cared passionately what people around him thought. He had a dread of failure that caused him to always keep getting better and to surround himself with people who knew things that he didn't. So I think we also need to have a healthy dose of insecurity. And then I guess the last thing that temperamentally drives us to become entrepreneurs would be that we're just comfortable and passionate about the role itself. I think people often confuse leadership, and to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a leader. I think people often confuse leadership with management. Great managers get the job done right. Great leaders get the right job done. And I think entrepreneurs keep their team focusing on and collectively solving for what the right darn job is. And, to do that, they have to be comfortable in their own skin and really thrive in the passion and the tumult and the uncertainty of creating something from nothing. So I think it's temperament. I'm just not qualified to do anything else. And I think my fellow entrepreneurs share a lot of these same
Yeah, I think you brought up huge points there. One of which is made me think of a class that I teach at a school, and it's on intrapreneurialism.
What's that?
I would say that if you could take everything you just said and then go, you know what? at XYZ company, whatever the size, it doesn't matter, but, you may be an employee for this company, but you can have entrepreneurialism inside of this company, and that is called intrapreneurial, kind of like the intranet. And there's I teach a class on that, and it really is kind of like, hey, you're in the whatever department for a company, treat this like it was your company. You take ownership, and you grow this thing, and you make decisions up to certain limits and whatever that is, but look at this as you're the owner of this company, because at that point, if you have the division heads, let's say, of your company, no matter the size, and they are all viewing their roles as entrepreneurial, creative owners of the company, wow, where would that go rather than just when's 5 o'clock coming?
Well, all of the businesses I've ever founded or co-founded, and in fact, you always co-found these. You can't do very much by yourself in this world. Mm-hmm. All of them have been employee-owned businesses. We founded a company, not my current partners and I, but prior partners, called Bargain.com, Bargain Network, in the mid-1990s. And we grew that from a $35,000 startup to a nearly $70 million exit 8 years later, doing exactly what you talked about, not just preaching the concept of you are an owner of this company, behave like it, bring everything you've got to the table. But we actually made them owners of the company. You could earn in. Nice. And I would say probably the single most satisfying day of business I ever had was end of November 2003 or 4 when we closed the deal. And in that closing room were 10 or 11 young men and women, all of whom became multimillionaires that day. I promise you that was much more fun than whatever my own payday was. It was the fact that these people had built the company and they truly were the owner. So I think we need to do more than, say, act like an owner. I think we need to give our employees and our key people the equity incentive to become owners.
Yeah, and doesn't that just get right back to what you were saying earlier about mindset? It's the mindset of an entrepreneur. And if you can instill in them, it's kind of like in marketing, pull marketing or push marketing. Well, if people feel pushed, they run. They're not gonna respond to that. But if they know the why behind something, now all of a sudden it's like, ooh, I might need that. And then it's like you get some of Robert Cialdini's, influence, and scarcity and all of those things in there. Now people are like, give me your product now. But yet if you can translate that over to the employees and giving them ownership and the reason why, and I would submit to you that part of then that management announcement kind of a rollout would be, I don't want to just give you ownership to go, wow, let's pad your bottom line. We want to make a difference in this sector, in the world. And if we can do that together, we're going to achieve it a lot quicker than if you guys are just salaried employees waiting for your Christmas bonus.
Absolutely. And let's face it, the most thrilling thing in the world is not what we do on our own. It's what we can create with others. Whether it's at the family level, whether it's at the enterprise level. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, it really also, another thought comes to my mind. One of the great books that I've read in the past is Bob Burg's The Go-Giver. It's just that whole mentality of giving and serving, and it kind of flies in the face of, what's it going to take to get you in this car today, or, coupon, buy now. And there's elements of that. We all need that in business. But when you can approach your serving of your employees internally or your servings of your clients and prospects externally, it just changes the vibe of the whole culture.
I would go further and say that it is the very essence of sales. I don't think that the pull part is really very important. If you can, the push part. If you can, maybe I'm even confusing push. Let me rephrase. To the extent that we are making about ourselves, our own company's needs, I want you to buy this product to, as you say, pad my bottom line, you're doomed to failure. To the extent, on the other hand, that we make it about the other guy, his or her needs, his or her pain, and solving for that, then we're going to be successful. It's like the old saying that, he could sell ice to Eskimos. That's the last thing in the world that a great salesman would do. A great salesman would ask the right questions and figure out that they needed blankets and sell them blankets.
Because that doesn't foster a long-term relationship. It fosters a closed deal, and they're never going to open your email again, never going to take your call again because you got them.
Yeah, it's all about the other guy. It's half of sales is learning just to qualify prospects and making sure you're talking to the right individual, somebody who's empowered not just to say no, but somebody who's empowered to say yes and who actually gives a darn about what you're talking about and has the pain that your product or service can solve. But the other half really is just making it about them.
It really is, because everyone's favorite radio station is what?
Is what?
What is everyone's favorite radio station?
I have no
Trick
idea.
question, but I'm giving you a pop quiz.
Okay, go ahead. I don't know.
WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I learned that years ago from a Brian Tracy seminar I went to, and it really is. If we can advertise, per se, on WIIFM and speak to that prospect's needs, and another word that you mentioned earlier, which is pain, because you know what? People are motivated to avoid pain a lot more than they are to get pleasure. So maybe let's think about it in money terms. You know, you can make a lot of money this year, or we can help you avoid going bankrupt. You know, that's going to, the bankrupt type or the losing your home type of speech is going to at least capture their attention a touch more longer than make more money, because they're like, yeah, whatever. But, ooh, wait a minute, the creditor's calling? Tell me more.
You're solving for acute pain there, and that's the first pain to address. But I think that, broadly speaking, it's less about having a list of proven questions or cynical ways of seeming to care about someone else's needs, and it's much more about the simple authenticity with which we show up, and people can feel that. Children,
because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and it sounds cliche, but doggone if it's not true, you know?
Yeah, and so and how is that demonstrated? How does that come across? Really through authenticity, through presence. My wife is a former big-time KPMG auditor at a very senior level, and over the last 10 years, she's been making the transition to becoming a doctor of medical Qigong, which is a 4,000-year-old branch of traditional Chinese medicine. And that medicine involves, that methodology involves the healer, the doctor, actually becoming a lens for healing, and that doctor needs to get into a state of depth and connection and presence in being with the patient to be able to allow the doctor's power and the doctor's energy and chi, literally life force, to come through and benefit the patient. So, having that authentic connection with whoever we're talking about, I don't care if it's business or in your church or on a Little League team, that's where the magic takes place in life. Do we connect with others?
Because how many times have we been at a chamber function, networking meeting, which really is give me business meeting, but anyway, we're talking to someone, and they're like, yeah, and looking around the room and maybe glancing at you, and they're not even listening to anything you're saying. They're just trying to see who's the next best person. Well, taking what you just said, we've got two.
I've seen that time and again. It's really off-putting, isn't it?
It really is. And we've got two ears and one mouth, but we tend to think we've got two mouths and one ear.
Well, that was one of the first axioms of sales I was ever exposed to. God gave you two ears and one mouth, and if you use them in that proportion, you'll be okay in sales. And damn, that's really proven true. Okay, I'm with you.
It really is, and it proves it in what you said with some health, medical related things. Because what if your doctor walked in the room, whatever type of doctor, walked in the room like and then checklist, clipboard, okay, well, talk to you later. It's like, wait a minute, I barely told you anything about myself, and you're diagnosing. You've got to listen, you've got to care, you've got to empathize. And we recently had our dog go in last weekend for a procedure, and the vet's office called back a few days later. Now, how is Rascal feeling? And that's a nice touch.
Good. Okay, man.
Anyway,
well, I'm with you.
We could probably talk for about 4.5 more hours on a variety of things. But is there a way that people can learn more about yourself, your business, money tips, and things like that we can point people to?
Yeah, thank you. Let me, if I may, just serve our own interest just for a half a second and talk about money tips, because we're doing some pretty revolutionary things that do benefit financial consumers. So big picture here, Mike, is at moneytips.com. Money Tips is an online community where American consumers and financial professionals engage one another directly about all things financial. And they discuss topics like investing in retirement, mortgages, insurance, taxes, pretty much anything that has to do with how people save, invest, borrow, or spend their money. Plus, and I think this is really an important feature of the community, any consumer free of charge can come onto the site and key in any question that they have about a financial topic, from a very general to a very technical question, and then can get a personalized answer from a credentialed financial professional. That'd be a licensed insurance agent, mortgage broker, investment professional, whatever. Within 24 hours, they can get this answer, which is published on the site, of course, by simply keying in the question on any page of Money Tips. So put simply, our mission is to democratize and promote the spread of financial information. Traditionally, Mike, the old kind of Merrill Lynch, no offense to Merrill Lynch or E.F. Hutton or any of those guys, but the old days, the financial advisor, the stockbroker, stood behind this mystique around financial topics, and I think these legacy financial institutions perpetuated this mystique to justify their high fees and their profits, but it's a faulty premise that we are dependent on them, particularly in this age of technology and what's called fintech, financial technology. So this old legacy notion that we're not smart enough to take control of our own financial lives is being shattered today, and we think Money Tips is really at the forefront of that. We created Money Tips to empower financial consumers by establishing an online community where they could learn from themselves and take command. And so
I love it.
Anyone can go to moneytips.com. Come, bring your questions. We have thousands of articles that are unique to the site, video content, and the ability, most interestingly, to interact directly with financial professionals who aren't trying to sell you. They're really there to engage you in these financial topics and help you take control.
I love it. It's awesome, and money is, without getting into specific research and statistics, because I don't know specific numbers, but I think you would agree with this statement. Money issues and problems are the most highly volatile issue in a life, in relationships, in marriage, and it causes so many problems potentially. But then if we can fix some of those, and not everything, it's not like push a button, your financial worries will go away. But if you can educate yourself, if you can make some wise decisions and get some support, without feeling like, I'm getting sold something, well, now that puts you on the path to potentially preventing some of those things.
Well, by elevating the dialogue, by taking it away from the experts in the flannel suits and engaging ordinary consumers in a healthy dialogue about their finances, getting them to talk about it, and empowering them with tools and understanding that, gosh, I can actually become, over time, the master of my own financial destiny. I think that creates a healthier climate within that family. And I think if I was in the legacy financial world, I would be running scared right now. I can't imagine that model isn't going to be disrupted enormously over the next 10, 15 years. But for the family, for the individual, I think it's good to become empowered. So we're doing our part there.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll have the link to moneytips.com on the interview page. Thank you so much for your time, Michael.
It's been great to meet you, Mike. You take care of yourself.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.